How you doing, folks? Well, I know I said I wasn't going to go at the van's engine again and I was going to call it quits on it, but I'm a very stubborn man, and also I got some useful information from a chap called David on Facebook who thinks he might know what the problem is, and it's definitely something worth exploring, so thank you for that info, David. And secondly, the situation has actually gotten a whole lot worse. The van is proving to be very hard to start at the moment, and it's definitely seriously down on power, and I'm finding that if I'm stuck in traffic or anything like that, it keeps getting into a situation where it won't rev up at all. It'll just sit at idle, and the accelerator pedal's unresponsive, and that'll only come back then when you turn off the ignition and turn it back on again. It's alright if you're rolling, you don't have to crank the starter, you just bump start it, but still, we can't leave it like that. That's just not practical. So anyway, I'll show you what David said to me to look at. So we're looking at the fuel pump here, obviously. Okay, so there's the fuel inlet, and if you look below the fuel inlet there, just at the tip of my finger, there is a little kind of I don't know what it is. It's a plunger, basically. It's a plunger that's screwed into the housing and has got a flat on either side of it. Now, I'm not fully sure how exactly I'm going to go about actually removing that, because it's kind of a little bit in an awkward spot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that, and inside is a plunger with a ball and spring in it, and what can happen is that can stick and basically cause the problems I'm having. So it is a simple thing. If that's all it is, then happy days, and you know, we're going away on a camping trip in it tomorrow anyway, so yeah, I definitely want it to be at least reliable enough to get us there and back. If not, drive well. So yeah, it's definitely worth a shot. So I'm going to get some tools and see if I can get that out. Yes, folks, that's right. You've seen the infomercials, you've seen the ads on TV. Now see it in use. It is the Gator Grip. I've never found this thing any use whatsoever, but let's give it a go. And I'll tell you the reason why I never found it any use. Because if you look at the size of it, it's essentially the size of like a 19mm socket. And unless you can get a 19mm socket in where a smaller nut or bolt is, then it isn't going to grip it, and most cases you just can't get access with a large socket in a small area. So I think in this instance this actually will do the trick though, so worth a shot, I think. See what I mean? Bloody useless. It won't go down there either, so that's not going to work. Now I'm thinking what I might be able to do is just bend that little piece out of the way just to make room for this socket. But otherwise I may have to come up with some other solution, but it's worth a shout first of all. Place your bets, folks. I don't think it's going to work, but it's on anyway. You see now this is in the way. The mount for the engine cover I don't even have. Oh, look at that. Well, no, it didn't come loose. Oh no, maybe it did. Well, now there's the thing. Colourly surprised. Now, I have a funny feeling diesel is going to go everywhere when I get this out, but at the very least the pump is going to need a damnable amount of bleeding to try and get it working again. Alright, so let's pop that out. Oh, look at that, David, you're an absolute legend. It's broken. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just found our culprit. Yes! Of course, the problem is now I now have to put a broken part back in to just get the van mobile again. But yes, thank God. Right, okay, so we now know what the issue is. So there's not going to be any welding or fixing that, but yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get a new one of them, and I'm going to pop it in, and I'm going to basically I'm going to make that as one video. So we will yeah, through the miracle of editing, you don't need to wait. So happy days though. So let's see, that definitely has to make some sort of a difference. Once again, fate's fickle finger has flicked me and the threads of that valve in the pump stripped out. So there's no threads left in the pump to even screw it back in again. So that means I need a new pump because the housing is banjacks now. I'll source a second-hand pump, folks, and I'll rebuild that second-hand pump. It just means I'm not going camping this weekend then. Ah yeah, go in and tell my wife now. She's not going to be too happy about that either. Well folks, it is the following morning and myself and my young lad behind me here are off to collect a new fuel pump. I put a message up on various Volkswagen groups in Ireland on Facebook, and Vantopia came to the rescue. Paul is the name of the guy there, and Vantopia specialise in Volkswagen T3 gearboxes. Okay, so if you have a T3 or T25 with an unserviceable gearbox, or a gearbox that you're not sure of the serviceability of, then he's the man you need to talk to. Okay, I'll stick a link in the description below. He's really bailed me out here, so he definitely deserved a plug in that regard. So yeah, I am fully aware that it may have been me who broke that plunger while I was taking it out, but that doesn't alter the fact that there was definitely something wrong with the fuel pump in the van anyway. And the fact of the matter is that it was bordering on undrivable as it was anyway, so I was kind of questioning whether or not it was going to get us down to the camping trip, which is about 100 miles away, and back. So a 200-mile round trip plus whatever other kind of noodling about we're going to be doing in that trip as well. So you know, I'm not on for having something that unreliable. Okay, I was coming up on a toll plaza there, so I had to take care of that. So anyway, yeah, basically the plan of action today is to get this fuel pump and to swap it out in the afternoon, and hopefully get the van back to serviceability for the end of the day. And then we're going to try and make at least part of the journey this evening. But yeah, I'd say it'll be tomorrow by the time we actually go and meet the Volkswagen contingent. There's quite a big Volkswagen club meeting on down in Wexford, so yeah, looking forward to that, and hopefully I'll get a bit of footage out of it as well for the old channel. So we'll see. Of course, the things conspire against me, but there again, it wouldn't be end float if things did go well, or if everything did go right. So a little challenge here or there, isn't that life? So yeah, look, anyway, at least we're on our way towards getting the situation sorted out. And yeah, the fuel pump isn't costing me the earth either, so definitely a win there. What do you think, Owen? Yes. Okay, so I'm on the way home and I have the fuel pump in the boot, so happy days. Paul really bailed me out, so yeah, check him out again. Paul at Vantopia. If you have a gearbox for a T3 that needs overhauling, he does really nice work. Great workshop setup there, and I'm going to try and do a tour of it actually at some stage, and have a chat with him about all things gearbox related. So given the fact that he's only half an hour away from my home, it would be a missed opportunity not to do it. But yeah, so let's see how we get on installing this fuel pump. Okay, so first thing to do is to take the exhaust off because it gets in the way of the lower pulley, and I'm going to need to take the lower pulley off to set the pump timing when it comes to doing that. Okay, so the exhaust is off, the timing belt cover is off, the auxiliary water tank is off, and the timing belt is all marked up and it's at top dead center, and those marks are going to be basically our reference points. So essentially, if we put that belt back on the way it came off, it shouldn't go wrong, but I will check it afterwards anyway, just to make 100% sure. So the next thing to do is to start on the injection pump itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking off the injection lines, then I'm going to take off the electrical connectors, then the fuel lines, and then we're going to have a look at undoing the belt and taking off the pump itself. There is a lot in this, folks. You need to be methodical about it, okay? It's not for the faint-hearted. So you have to remember that a diesel fuel injection pump is essentially the be-all and end-all of the fuel management system in a diesel engine, especially if it's an IDI engine. This is a TDI, so it's electronically managed, but the pump still does the kind of the work. The ECU tells the pump what to do, the pump does it. So yeah, there's a lot in it, you know. Now, I had said in my comments section on my community tab that I was going to rebuild the pump that I have. Well, I'm not going to do that now because of the fact that the thread stripped out of that boss, so can't do that, even though I've ordered a rebuild kit for it. But it's one of those things. It was 20 quid, you know. So look, let's just say I got the new pump for 70. Anyway, right. So yeah, let's keep going. Well, that was stitched. I made up a special spanner for turning over Volkswagen diesel engines. It's just a socket welded into an open end of a spanner. It's actually a 3/4 socket, which I find fits very snugly on the pulley bolt. Alright, so there's the injector lines off. So now we'll take our electrical connectors out of the way, and then we can take our fuel lines off. Okay, so you saw me taking one of the electrical connectors off there already. The other one is down here, and it's just literally a case of squeezing little tabs in the side, and that pops off. Okay, so that's basically the electrical connections disconnected. Next thing to do is fuel inlet and outlet. So 17mm spanner. You're going to expect a little bit of diesel is going to pour out of here, so don't be too surprised. So I'm actually going to take, it's a banjo bolt, so I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to take the union off, and I'm going to literally just thread that back into the pump for the moment, just for safekeeping, and we'll retrieve it when we're putting the new pump on. So that's out of our way now, and the other one on the back here. Jesus, Ross, you didn't need to stitch everything. Of course, the union comes loose with it. All right, get another 17. There we go. There's copper washers to go between there, so you have to make sure you keep the copper washers. Alright, so put that there. This can go back on here for the moment as well. Alright, so that's that done. So next thing we need to do is we need to yeah, I think we can take the belt off now and take the pulley off. Take the fasteners off that actually hold the pump on here. So there's 3 on this end, and there's 1 down the back down here, which is an awkward little AHU to get at. So we'll persevere and we'll get it off. It's not the end of the world. It shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, so yeah, pulley next. Right, 21mm socket. I've said it before, folks, and I'll say it again. Impact guns have gotten so cheap that if you're doing any sort of large scale work on any vehicle whatsoever, just go and buy yourself one. That Ryobi one was 100 quid, and it is paid for itself over and over again. It's just such a fantastic piece of gear to have, and given the fact that you don't need compressors or anything like that anymore for these type of things, it's just worth having one. So yeah, definitely, that's Ross's top tip of the day. There's a dog across the road, and every time another dog walks by, he goes mental. That's what the racket in the background is. Unfortunately, I immobilised this van with my own stupidity by doing this out on the road, or when I did this out on the road, so I haven't been able to move the van in onto my driveway or outside the garage or anything, which is mildly inconvenient to say the least. But anyway, look at right, so let's get that top pulley off. Alright, that's it loose. Loose but not off. All right, it'll come loose when I need it to. Okay, so can we get to all the bolts on the pump? Yes, we can. Okay, so some of these are going into a captive nut, and then some of them have a nut that you need to access through the pulley. So the one on the top here, that is a that's going into a captive nut, so you don't need to get a spanner onto the nut. So you can just undo that first of all. Of course, the impact gun isn't good for everything. You need to use your sockets sometimes too. And what I would love to get is actually an electric ratchet, Ryobi again, so that my batteries all work for it. Okay, so there's the top bolt out there. Okay, there's another. Is that a? Yeah, see that down there. There's a stud down there, which is handy because it means that you don't have to try and get a socket in there. You get your socket in this end here. In actual fact, the stud is on the end of the. It's on the end of this this little kind of horseshoe shaped thing. So that's what you get out. So handy. I'll hand it to Volkswagen for that. That's definitely a useful little piece of gear. So yeah, and then hopefully it's the same arrangement on the bottom, and I think it is. Yeah, it is. Okay, so we can get our socket in on that as well. Yeah, and there's another one of those little kind of horseshoe things that goes around the pump. Just be careful not to drop the nut. Okay, it's out. It just it won't come out from under the pump. But that's good enough for the moment. Okay, so that's the 3 front ones off. Okay, so next thing we need to do is we need to take the one off down the back. So that is an awkward one to get at. So the coolant pipe coming up on a T25 actually gets in the way of it, and I can't see it either. So I need to. Yeah, you can just about see it down there. It's down below the. It's down below the injector pipes. I'll turn you around and you can have a look. So you can just about see it down there. So that's the one we need to take off. It's just that. My finger's on it there now. So once we take that out, there is a kind of a conical washer type thing in there as well. So you just have to make sure that you don't lose that. And then the pump basically should be free to come out, and then we can have a look at the new one. Okay, a ring spanner should do the job nicely on this. It is a 13mm, so that's handy. And I'm not even going to try and release it without linking another spanner on, because everything else is stitched. Why wouldn't this be? Okay. Now, it's worth noting at this point that these bolts will have to be left loose when you go to set the timing on the pump. So don't stitch them up before you're kind of ready to do the timing. You can nip them, but allow a little bit of free play, because you will need it. So anyway, I'm going to get a ratchet spanner on that. Power Fix, the finest Lidl tooling. Actually, they're grand, to be honest with you. Alright, it's just spinning and spinning, so I think we've actually got it off all the way. So it's just a case now of taking the pulley off the whole way. Because at this point is when you commit. In fairness, I should have been committed a long time ago. Alright, okay, so there's the pulley off. And oh, come on. Bolt must be through the back of the van and into the car behind me. 10 feet long. That's a little fecker. Okay, it's not 10 feet long, but Alright, there's the old pump out. Right. That's the, it's a conical nut is actually what it is. I was trying to remember exactly what way it worked. And there's a broken off cable tie and the other horseshoe clip that goes around the pump. Alright, so let's clear some of the leaves and crud and stuff like that out of here. Alright, so here we are. Here's the new injection pump. Now, there is a slight difference between it and the old one I've taken off. A very slight difference now, and that's basically these lads here. They're the Land Rover valves. Okay, so these need to actually be taken out, and I need to put the ones from my own pump into it. I can't use these because the injection pipes actually wouldn't fit onto them. So yeah. Anyway, look. Aside from that, I think what I'll do is I'll just give it a little. I'll give it a little clean. There's no point in fitting it all grubby like this. Give it a little clean, and we'll bolt it in. I got the old pump off in, well, less than an hour actually, including taking off the exhaust and marking up the timing belt and everything. So arguably that was the easy part, but you know, I think we're making good progress here. I'm after saying it now, so I scuppered myself, but anyway, I still think we are. Okay, so here's the old fuel pump here, and I need to take off the 4 valves here basically, and inside there are also copper washers, and I need to retrieve those copper washers too. Now I'm just going to break the torque with this because they're stitched. Well, they're stitched when you can't hold the thing on when you're trying to loosen it. So anyway, that certainly made it a bit easier, that did. Alright, so I am going to turn it around so it's in the same orientation as the new one, which is over to my right here. And I'm going to put the valves in the same place, okay? So, it just strikes me as the sensible approach. Just want to take one of them out just to make sure it's not completely full of crap or something like that, you know. And no, looks alright. Alright, it's just to make sure basically that it's not all completely gummed up in there. Alright, so turn there's the copper washers from the new pumper in there, so I suppose you could use them. Alright, so all 4 of the valves have a copper washer in, so just thread that in there. Okay, so the 4 Volkswagen valves are back in, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bag up those Land Rover valves, because who knows, we might use them in the future or somebody else might want them. So I'll leave them in a tray for the moment. I'll come back to them. I'm not going to worry too much about it for the moment. Time is of the essence today, my friends. Alright, so that's that done. So, happy days. Now, next thing to do is to swap across the fuel line fittings. I could actually, in theory, do that on the van. I think I might, because at least it's held still then. So, but basically that's this pump ready to fit. So, wish me luck, folks. Let's just hope that this fixes all my problems, because if it does, I'll be a very, very happy man. Alright, so let's fit the new one. I actually did take the fuel lines off. It was just handier while I was on the ground because they were just kind of getting in the way. Alright, so that goes through there, and what we need to do before we drop that down is we need to put a little cone-shaped washer in, and then there will be a bolt that goes through. Can't remember which one now, to be honest with you. I might have to look back through my own video footage. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's my wife brought me out some coffee in the Enfloat mug. At this moment in time, with only 2,000 subscribers, it's the only one, but hopefully in the future we can look at doing merchandise. And I say we, I mean me. Enfloat is a one-man operation, I can assure you. Well, although my wife does help. Okay, so that goes in through there first of all. So we didn't put that in. We'd be making life very difficult for ourselves trying to get that in after the fact. Okay, so kind of just leave it there for the moment. Now our conical washer can go in next, and then we'll just gingerly feed this bolt through. So yeah, there didn't seem to be a washer or anything with it. So yeah, strange one anyway, but there you go. So that, no, actually, hang on a second. Yeah, so there is a washer. It's the big thick one. Okay, grand, right. So we're all right in that. Sorry, I was just having a senior moment there, I think. So okay. This is not awkward, I don't know what is. So you need to try and feed the bolt through the hole in the pump and into this conical washer without the conical washer disappearing. And that coolant pipe is once again in the bloody way. So look, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, folks. Shit on it. Right. Of course, as soon as I got the bolt into position, the nut dropped off. So yeah, it could be a bit tricky. I might have to use a gob of mala or something like that, blue tack or plasticine, whatever you want to call it. Coffee helps. Oh, you little bastard, you. When I was talking to Paul, I estimated that the job in total would take me 2 hours to do, there or thereabouts. And I don't think I'm going to be that far off the mark. It might take me 3. But of course, it might take me 2 hours just to get this stupid nut on. Once I get this in place. Okay. Oh, my retaining plates after dropping off somewhere. Marvellous. I hope I can retrieve that and get it out without having to take that bolt back out. Anyway, I'll come back to you in a minute. Yes, of course I had to take the pump back off. Anyway, I had the wherewithal to wire lock that plate into place now for the moment. I can cut the wire off when it comes to actually installing it. So now, that can go there. And where's our bolt gone? There it is. Alright. So now, ease this into position. And the nut will drop off. I'll have to go retrieve that. There you go, just like that. Yeah, that's the nut dropped off, so that's grand. That's helpful. So now we turn the pump over to the side. Try and fish my big meat fists in here to retrieve the nut and put it back into position for the umpteenth time. You get it done up most of the way, but don't fully tighten it. If you fully tighten it, then you won't have any room to adjust the timing. Alright, so that's it, just snug, just nipped home, okay, but it's not fully home, okay. So now what I can do is I can get the front bolts on. So there's two nuts and a bolt, okay. So first thing we need to do is we need to put this in. So this goes in across here. We need to take the nut off it. And that goes like that. And yeah, there are two tabs on that end. So we need to cut the lock wire off now. But what I'll do before I cut the lock wire off is I'll put the nut on the bottom one, because you know yourself how that plays out. Alright, so that's one nut in place, and I'll get the nut in place on the other one as well. Alright, and yeah, now next thing to do is cut the lock wire off. So, okay, that did the trick nicely there. And the bolt goes through this way because there's a captive nut on the plate on the outside. Alright, so that's too tight, so you can't actually move the pump yet. So see, the way you set the timing is with the nuts and bolts loose that actually hold the pump in place. You turn the body of it like that. But what we need to do is kind of center it up so it's somewhere in the middle of its travel, and then we'll have to run the engine and set it roughly with the VCDS software, and then we can get it dialed in properly then once the engine's heated up. Because what I want to do is let me see, I'm just going to lose that. First of all, I want to loosen that off down there a little bit more. I want to tighten the bolts up while I run the engine for a length of time to get the heat into it. There we go. Alright, so somewhere around there. Alright, and I'll just nip the other two for the moment, and then we can come back to that. Okay, so they're all nipped up enough now that the pump isn't really going anywhere. So the next thing I want to do is I want to put the belt on and I want to put the pulley on. But before you do that, you have to put the woodruff key in. So there's a woodruff key which I actually retrieved from the old pump. The new pump didn't actually come with one. So slot that into the shaft of the pump, and I'm going to just wedge open my access door. This is why taking off the expansion tank is a handy thing to do, because it just gives you that little bit more access. And then we just slot our pulley on, preferably without the bloody wire stuck in behind it. Alright, so now, because this is a keyed pulley, it can only go on one way. Alright, now the way I made the mark was I made it so that the timing was bob on as I took it off. So if we go back to those marks, the timing should stay the way it should be. Okay, so we have a mark on the crankshaft, a mark on the camshaft, a mark on the pump. Okay, line up those three marks, and the timing should be fine once I tension it. And but first I'm going to put the nut on, and I'm going to tighten that home, because yeah, we don't want it popping off. So I'll send a few Ugga Duggas its way, and not something you want coming loose, but I'll check that in a little while once I have everything in place. Okay, so now let's get our marks lined up. So the mark on the camshaft has come away from the mark. Yeah, so okay, we're miles out. All right, so this is a bit fiddly, and it's one of those things that it's even more fiddly if I have to try and show you on the camera. Right, I'll come back to you when it's done. Okay, so the belt is back on. I did a separate video ages ago about replacing a timing belt. In actual fact, I've done it a couple of times. So I wasn't going to show you much detail on it in this video, because that's not the purpose of this video at all. So what I am going to do is I'm going to start fitting the fuel lines now. So I'll take this lad off now, and I did actually transfer the banjo clips in, the banjo bolts in, just to to do some job at preventing dirt from getting in. So yeah, that goes there, and then copper washer on either side of the banjo fitting. Can't remember if I actually went above or below. Oh, we go below it, should be alright. The dipstick here. Now I'll give that a nip. It's a 17, so need to get an extension. It's pretty alright there, to be honest with you. It's out of the way of everything. It's kind of slightly chafing on the dipstick, so I might just put a little bit of stuff around it, or a little P-clip or something like that. I'll do that at a later stage. Let's just keep going for the moment. Make sure that everything is working as it should be here. We're actually nearly at the point of starting this engine now, so that goes on there. The copper washer already on, and then that goes there, and then this goes here. So again, 17, and snugged up. We'll do our electrical connectors now. Well, this one here anyway. This is kind of the main one. All the way around. So that's that, and I'll do the other one afterwards because it just gets in the way of the injector pipes. So the next thing we can do is we can actually put our injector pipes on, but I want to leave them loose because we need to bleed the system, because that pump is going to be bone dry. So these are pipes for the front two cylinders, so we need to put the back two on first. These lads here, these go on like so. You can tighten them up with the injector, or at the pump end, but not at the injector end. So we leave them loose there so that we can check and make sure we're getting diesel through. The orientation might be just a little different, simply because of the fact that the pump might be twisted in relation to how it used to be. What you want to do is make sure that you get the pipe centered on the valve on the pump before you go tighten everything down, because what you'll do is you'll deform the pipe and you put stress on it, and then it'll just break on you. That really does not look right. I'm wondering if I even got the right pipes on there. No, okay, I'm being a div, sorry. The front two pipes go on the bottom and then the back two pipes go on the top. So that's what I've done wrong. So there's a lesson in that. Don't go bending the pipes to try and fit when they should just drop on. So we've put our front two on, so we'll take these off and these will go on the top and then they'll fit. So So we'll see now, I'll show you what I mean. So if we actually offer them up onto those two pipes there, they go straight across there. So yeah, that's all it was. So put these on. There you go, underneath the fuel return, the runoff from the injectors. Now I've just literally just putting the pipes on a couple of threads there just so that they're in position, but not tightening them. And now we can tighten up these lads down here. So remember to tighten the bottom two before you put the top two on. There's a serious bit of pressure in these. I think it's something like 500 bar or something like that. It's a crazy amount anyway. So you need to be careful, basically. Whatever it is, there is serious pressure. Now, get our top two on, which are the back two, as we've learned. Okay, and we just get the pipe centered up on the injector, and then just run it down like a couple of turns. Now, okay, so now we can tighten the top two. Alright, so our 4 injector pipes are tight now, so now we can put that electrical connector on as well. That one down there is on. So what I want to do before we do anything else, and this really does make good sense, is to turn the engine over by hand to make sure that there's no interference and that everything with the timing belt is correct. I'm not going to put the auxiliary belt or any of the guards or anything like that on just yet, because we don't need them just yet. What we need to do is we need to get the timing set first of all and make sure that that's all 100%, and then we can lock up the pump properly, because it's only the nuts are all just nipped. So let's see how it turns over by hand. By the way, it's a common misconception to think that your marks on your belt are going to come back around to where they're supposed to be after you rotate it one full turn, but it won't work like that. The mark on each individual pulley will, but the belt's not, because of the number of teeth. Okay, right, there we go. So our engine's free to turn. It's gotten a full rotation. So now let's have a go and see if we get a bit of fuel through to the injectors. Bit more cranking needed there, I think. I'm getting a bit out of that one, I think, but we'll go a bit more. Obviously the pump is completely dry. Okay, don't want to kill my starting motor either. Okay, so you can hear the click clack of the the pump doing its thing. Okay, so maybe I just tightened up the injectors a little bit too much. I mean, they're only finger tight. I take them off altogether. Oh, there's diesel there. Actually, let's put them on and see what happens. Could be exciting. This is cranking over freely anyway, so doesn't sound like there's anything untoward there. Okay, so the injector lines are all tight, so now let's see if it starts. Of course, the question has to be asked, is the timing that far out? No, something up. Alright, I've loosened off 2 of the injector lines. Let's see if we can get fuel through. I think it's just not pulling. I'm not inclined to kill the starting motor, but I need to get the fuel through. Okay, that starting motor's getting hot and bothered at this stage, I'd say. And we're not getting anything through to there. What's going on? Fuel cut off solenoid, I'm wondering. Okay, the ignition is on now. So we should hear a click from the solenoid when I put this here. Right, we're not. Okay, so next thing to do is get a meter onto that and see if there's actually any power there. So if there's no power there, it's an electrical issue to the pump, and if there is power there, then it's the solenoid itself. So El Cheapo meter comes out. I do have a fluke meter, but alright, we're not getting any power at the fuel cut off solenoid. Okay, so that is a simple wiring issue. So let's have a look and see. Okay, so I'm not getting any power to the connector for the solenoid here either. So I wonder what's going on there. Is it a case where if it sees that there's an open circuit, it cuts it off? Maybe. So let's have a look. What we'll do is we'll reconnect it, and I'll actually probe it while it's connected and see if that is the case. So I have to turn off the ignition and turn it back on again. So we'll do that now. Okay, so I've reconnected that, and we're not getting any power to the solenoid. So, but yeah, there's power going to other parts on the pump. So now I need to find out why there's no power going to the solenoid on the engine. So yeah, hours of entertainment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my auto test probe out. I'm going to put power to that solenoid, and I'm going to see if we're getting fuel through. I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall here, folks. I cannot get fuel through to the injectors. I don't know what is up with the pump. It's just like what's happening is the solenoid is opening and then closing again after 5 seconds. It seems to be going through its test, but it's just not it's not letting it run. So I'm trying to get the VCDS software to run, but once again Windows has seen the bloody VCDS software as a virus and has uninstalled it all on me. Every single time I go and use it, no matter what I do, it's the same crap. So anyway, yeah, it's because I bought a knockoff version of the VCDS software. I wasn't paying like £1,000 for the proper one. But anyway, frustration, and this is just adding to it. But I'll persevere. The camera's on charge, which is why I'm kind of here talking to you like this in the front seat. But I'll reconvene when I have an answer. I feel like I'm this close to actually getting it to run, and this is driving me mental. But I just can't get fuel through to the injectors. It seems like it's a case where it's just not self-bleeding. But the problem is, like, the thing about it is, right, the pump is making all the right noises. When you have a failed start, you can hear the metering valve buzzing away and all that as well. So it's getting power, it's doing its thing. The fuel solenoid is opening and then closing again. I don't understand why that is. But what I want to try and do first of all is I want to try and bleed the fuel system, suck all the air out of it, and I'll show you exactly how I'm going to try and do that. I have the taste of diesel in my mouth, so that'll tell you I've already tried that other method before you say anything. And it is not nice. So anyway, what I have is I have an oil draining pump. This is just for sucking oil out of the sump of a car if you don't want to have to take the sump plug out. I'm going to use it a couple of times. But anyway, what I have here is I have the banjo fitting that came on the pump, and I've blanked that one off. Okay, I've got that one on the fuel return, sucking it through to there, down into my little paraffin jug down here. So it's going to go down into that, and I'm going to supply it off the Beetle's battery here, because the van's battery is now on charge because it was starting to die on me. So yeah, that was the other issue. Now I even tried the old ether bunny, and it was I was kicking all right, yeah, but it wasn't going to stay running that way. So yeah, anyway, right, let's get this on and see what happens. Fingers crossed we get loads of air out of it, and then it works. Right, so there's loads of air coming through that pipe. Okay, so it's sucking a heap of air through there. All right. Just leave it run for a little while. I wonder, should I turn on the ignition and get the fuel solenoid open? I suppose it wouldn't do any harm. I'll go and do that. Okay, it's still sucking air through that pipe. I can see air coming through it, but where it's going, I'm not entirely sure. I'll put a kink in that pipe just to be 100% sure it's not going to suck air into there. But it literally have that much air in it. I suppose it could do if it's drained down, but I think this is a pretty good way of draining it, actually, if you ask me. Okay, it's starting to suck diesel now. A few air bubbles coming through it. Once the diesel gets to the pump, it'll start pumping a lot faster. Make sure that's in there, it is. And I'm going to pump a load through, like I want to pump a couple of litres through this. Because what this will actually do is it'll flush through the pump as well. You know, I have to say, sometimes I surprise myself with my ingenuity. And I'm modest as well, did you not notice that? Yeah, we're starting to suck some. Now we're sucking diesel. Hey, I couldn't miss an opportunity to say that phrase. Now we're sucking diesel. I have an audience, and hopefully it's deserved, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually try and yeah, he's recording. Yeah, we're going to try it now, because what I did was I left all but one injector line on, and it literally just bled through one, and it started to kick with the 3 cylinders. So hopefully this time it'll actually start. So let's see what happens. The moment of truth, folks. Let's do this. Ah, yes! I think it might be in safe mode though, because either that or it just needs to bleed out, because it won't accelerate very much. Yeah, there we go, it's picking up now. Right, let's check everything over. Okay, so maybe it's just because that pump was sitting up for so long, but obviously that method worked, much to my surprise. And maybe that's the reason it's not revving up, because I have the map sensor disconnected, of course. I completely forgot about that. We'll reconnect that and we'll try it now. So I'll come back to you in a sec. What do you think, mister? Yeah, the engine, yeah.
Is it going?
I think it might be a chip off the old block. Right, okay, now the MAF sensor is connected, so it knows what sort of airflow it's getting. Sounding good. Sounding very good, actually. A little bit of hesitation, but I think that could be just the last of the air getting through it. Let's just check everything over now. Alright, okay, so everything's connected. It's running. Of course, what we need to do now is we need to do the timing, and that means fixing that Poxy VCDS software. Probably it's not running well because I need to do the timing. It's driving up cleanly though. So, timing is the last thing, and then we'll take it for a drive. Well folks, it's testament to my resolve that I didn't end up in a straitjacket today, to be honest with you. Have a think about, for a moment, what the worst possible outcome for this job for me could have been. Yes, you guessed it. I was pissing about with the VCDS software for about 2.5-3 hours, trying to get it to just work, okay? And I finally did, and I set the pump timing, and everything's grand. It was actually ticking over beautifully, right? So I turned it all off, went to tighten up the bolts in the pump, which is grand, and that required turning the engine over by hand using this tool. Okay, now this is, as I said, I showed you earlier on, is a spanner with a socket welded into it to get in between the pulley and the exhaust. Now, if you're having a look at that pulley and you're thinking something ain't right, that is because me, like an idiot, forgot to take that spanner off when I went to start it. And what happened? It took the bolt out. And the engine started, the pulley came off, the timing belt slipped, and the pistons hit the valves. So yes, folks, that is correct. I screwed the engine, big style. So now, what's next? I wouldn't mind. I didn't even get the chance to drive it. I was this close, and I really thought the way it was idling, it sounded lovely. It sounded like I finally had it right, and I went and did that. To say that I'm heartbroken is actually an understatement. To be honest with you, I lost my shit big style when it happened. Really did, and just I wonder is there a dent in the side of the van where I gave it a boot? Because anyway, yeah. So I suppose on the bonus side of it, you guys get to see more footage about this van and me delving deeper into the engine, and I get to take the cylinder head off. Woohoo! I can't bloody wait. And one of my friends has decided that he will very kindly donate a new cylinder head to me. So what I'll do is I'll use his cylinder head for parts, and I'll take the valves out of it that are bent and put them into my cylinder head. But for the moment I'm doing nothing more with this because, well, it's 9:30 at night, and there is a couple of cans of cores in the fridge with my name on them, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to have that. So folks, I will catch you later, and please do subscribe if you want to watch me making another mess of this whole operation. And maybe even if you don't, there's other things on the horizon as well. So I'll chat to you soon. Thanks for watching.